Hello, this is going to be a little brief demonstration on how to do auto sampling with AUDIOLAYER. This is the latest update. This is really very handy. Okay, you're probably going to want to use AUM for this because you have to get audio into AUDIOLAYER to sample it, and you have to have MIDI control between AUDIOLAYER and the device or program that you're sampling from. Within the iPad, this is easy. If you have hardware, I suppose you could do it equally as well. You'd have to have a MIDI input-output device to the hardware, plus an audio input back from the hardware. I can't test that here because I don't have that. But right now, we're going to try, we're going to resample sample tank. And then we're going to load AUDIOLAYER as an AUV3. And we want to create a communications connection between AUDIOLAYER and sample tank. Click on the hamburger icon on sample tank and select AUDIOLAYER as the input source for MIDI. Now we can check our signal level if we open a keyboard, send it to sample tank. Of course, you'll have to set up your your app to receive MIDI. Excuse me. You have to set up your app to receive MIDI, which I have done. Now, what you will see in AUDIOLAYER is a new selection. Just tap on the empty space. Well, you might want to first create an instrument. Let's. I did this once already, so let's create a new one. New instrument. Let's do AUDIOLAYER samp. Okay, now we have our new instrument. Click anywhere in the blank area. You'll see on the left-hand side under Record Audio, it has Record Instrument. Select that. You can set your starting note, your end note, and your note stride. The note stride is the number of spaces in between each note. For this example, I want 1 because we're going to get each note because it's a drum kit. But if you're doing something that has, that can be stretched, then you wouldn't need to do this. The start note is going to be, what is that? That's A1. So let's set that. If you just drag your finger, it's a little fidgety. A lot of the stuff in this is really, it's like it's made for a desktop computer because it's really hard to control. That should be A1. And we're going to end up at B3. B3. So we have A1 to B3 selected. Note stride is 1. Velocity steps, this is up to you. If you sample, if you listen to, like in this case, drums, it sounds to me like this is a round robin. With basically only 2 velocity samples. The first one is from here to here, and that's the second one from there up. So it's really just 2 velocity sample areas. It's fairly believable. So we'll do 2 velocity steps. 2 velocity steps. Sustain. The amount of time your longest sample, this is something you'll have to either time out or rough in. I'm going to say 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1000. I think 5 seconds will give us a safe space here. So let's drag this up to about, come on, 5 seconds. Okay, the release time, That's going to be a 2-second total. That's a little, that'll be, I mean, a 5-second total. That's a little excessive. So let's go to, let's try 1 second release time. Threshold is -80. I think that's sufficient. So now that you have all this set up, you got your start note, end note, note stride. That's the distance between each of the sampling keys. Sustain level set to the maximum note length you want to capture. Release, self-explanatory. Threshold, got that. It will tell you also the total time here, 322.8 seconds, number of samples 54. According to this, it's ready to go. So it's all set up. Let's hit start. You get to see the waveform there. Okay, this is how it looks after it populates the sample window. And you have two velocity layers, as you can see. And you can hear that we have an envelope. Also, velocity layer in AUM has to be set up. Center velocity, we want a velocity range of 127 with a center velocity of about 75, I think. As you can see, there's a problem with the way these are changing between each other. Also, we don't need this to go that entire length, so we can reassign that this way. Again, these things are really, really fidgety with your fingers. Also, there's no undo, so if you make a mistake, you're screwed if you didn't save it. Okay. So what we want to do, and this is about as wide as you can stretch this too, which is another, it would be nice if it was wider. Anyway, so select the sample, and in the upper right, you have controls for the instrument, the layer, and the zone. To the right, you have an editor for the sample. You can set the root note, whether it's a loop or a one-shot. You can assign it to a mute group, and it gives you basic information. You could do, basic trimming here. But let's go back. Let's figure out why this is all choked. The instrument is the entire project. Layer is identified here. We have one layer. You can add layers from here or delete layers from here. We'll talk about layers too in another video. But right now we have one layer. We have to go, for each one of these tabs, there are also 3 tabs in the upper right. And this is where I got caught before. So we're going to go back to layer. We're going to go to level. We don't need an LFO. But this is the sustain. Now we have sustain. No, we don't. And now we do. As you can see, that works throughout the layer. If you want to go and change individual drum kit items, since this is a little different because this is a drum kit. So drum kits have their own, while you might consider the drums an instrument, it has, multiple pieces, cymbals and toms and what have you. You can break out all that onto different layers, which is probably your best option. And I'll show you that maybe on another video. But right now we're all on one layer. You'll notice that there's not much difference between the two as far as velocity is concerned. So we want to make that more gradual. If you go to the sample, select it, go back to the editing, and go to the zone. The zone is what's highlighted here. Those are all zones. So if you want to edit a zone, go to the zone menu. And we're going to look at, in the lower left here, you see velocity. Velocity 0 means it doesn't change. You can see that this is the sample we're working with. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll see the note travel line. I'm using the low, this is the low velocity sample. That's the high velocity. This is the low velocity sample. So we want this to be a gradual increase. If you go all the way to 48, it'll be very low at the bottom and maximum at the top of the zone. Again, you want to make this zone scope. As you'll notice, I did not do that. And so, it's done it to everything. That was not my intention. It did to everything but this. All right. Well, I've already made my bed, so here we go. As you can see. Now down here, towards the lower end of the velocity, that's a little too extreme. So you can take it down to where you start to hear it. Where you might want your grace notes. There's not much difference there. So let's go back up to like 25 or 24. If we go to zone scope, it focuses in on the individual zone we're working with. Let's turn the envelope off. Now you see we want to give ourselves some velocity difference on the high velocity sample. So that sounds more natural. So you want to do that for each sample until you get as you can see these haven't been done, but you get the idea. So there you have a resampled drum kit from Sample Tank in an audio layer format.